caught my BF and best friend cheating on me at her wedding and all our friends knew. So I exposed them during the wedding speech, causing her fiancé to leave her at the altar. So when I was in college, I was a part of a pretty tight-knit group of friends from my department, and over the years, we have stayed in touch. There are 7 of us, 4 guys and 3 girls. One of the girls, let's call her Elaine, was my college roommate, and we were literally inseparable. She's been my best friend since our college days, and recently, I attended her wedding, which is where everything went wrong. Out of this group, I've also been dating one of the guys for the past 8 years. Let's call him Nick. For context, it was Nick who was originally closer to these people, but after we started dating, I kind of became a part of the group as well, and along with me, so did Elaine. We started dating when we were in our 2nd year. I was 20 back then, and for the past 8 years, we have grown together. We've had a few rough patches, but we've always managed to make it through, and for the past year, I've been talking to him about getting married, but he has been telling me that he isn't ready yet. I find it really bizarre because both of us are pretty sorted on the work front, and we have even been living together for the past 4 years, so I really don't understand why it's such a big deal to get married. I value my professional life, but I also want to get married and start a family, and Nick and I have been bickering a lot over that in the past few months. He thinks that I'm rushing it, which doesn't even make sense because we've literally been together for 8 years, and he's also been claiming that I need to focus more on my work, which also doesn't make sense because I make more money than anyone else I know and have been running my dad's office supplies company for the past 2 years. Lots of women do extremely well career-wise while being married with kids, and I'm ready to do it, so I really didn't think that he had a point, and I knew that he was just refusing to get married because he didn't want to commit to me in spite of being with me for 8 years. And I was very upset about that, so we have been fighting about this quite frequently for the past few months, but even then, we haven't broken up, in spite of the problems we had been having in our relationship. And given his behavior, it didn't even occur to me that he might have been cheating on me because he had been completely normal otherwise. Either he would apologize to me or I would, but at the end of the day, I thought that we would always find our way back to each other. But I don't think that's the case anymore because at Elaine's wedding, I realized that he had probably been cheating on me for God knows how long, and the cherry on top was that he had been cheating on me with my best friend, and the bride herself. I found out about it just a couple of days ago, when I saw them for myself, making out in the parking lot in my car, of all the places they could have picked. But instead of just confronting them then and there, I decided to go the theatrical way and humiliated her publicly. So for context, Nick and I had driven to the hotel where Elaine was getting married the day before the wedding, and in the evening, we were supposed to attend the rehearsal dinner, but I was really tired from the journey and I also got really bad migraines sometimes, so I decided to skip it. Later in the evening, my migraine started to get worse, and since I had forgotten my meds while packing, I had to go out to buy some. That's how I ended up in the parking lot, because I didn't want to walk, and saw them going at it. I think I was there for about 45 seconds, and as soon as I figured out what was going on in the car, I just turned around and started walking away because I had no idea what to do about what I had just seen. I don't think they have spotted me because they were too busy with each other and I got lucky. By then, the rehearsal dinner was already over, so I decided to go to one of my friends' rooms so I could at least talk to them about what I had just seen, hoping that maybe they would be able to comfort me and I would find the courage to confront Elaine and Nick when they finally came back. But instead, when I made my way to my friend's room, I heard a bunch of voices from the inside and I realized that our group was sitting inside anyway, and coincidentally, they were already talking about Nick and Elaine. Not only were they talking about them, they were all actually laughing behind my back about how clueless I was about all of this. So they had known all along, and they had been covering up for 2 of them. The only other girl in the group, my friend Kate, made some joke about how they were going to get caught one of these days because of all the sneaking around that they had been doing even during the wedding prep. And apparently, they had even hooked up when I had gone home early at the engagement party. All of them found this very fun to talk about, and I was horrified at how casually they were discussing everything, as if my feelings did not matter to them at all. So I just walked away from the door, and luckily, they hadn't noticed me lurking either, probably because they had all had a little too much to drink. I think that day was pretty much the worst one of my life, but even then, after I went back to my room and cried for about 15 minutes, I decided not to let anything show because I had already started formulating my plan and I knew that I was going to teach these people a lesson of a lifetime. So when Nick finally came back to the room, I pretended like everything was normal and we went to sleep without any discussion. The next day, the day of the wedding, I greeted everybody normally and everything was going fine until I decided to stand up right before the ceremony was supposed to start, and in front of all the guests, I said that I wanted to make a speech in my friend's honor. That's not how traditionally things are done, so obviously there were some strange looks, but I guess Elaine thought I was going to make some heartfelt speech about how I was going to miss her or whatever, so she allowed it. It was a pretty big mistake on her part because then, I went on to talk about whatever I had seen the previous evening, and also brought up what I had overheard our friends talking about in their room later, about the events at the engagement party, while they were chilling and talking behind my back. At least, at that point, all of them had the good sense to look ashamed. But I don't care about them that much. I only cared about how Nick and Elaine were going to react to my speech, and of course, as soon as they realized what was going on, they tried to get me to stop. It was much easier for Nick since he was right beside me, and he started trying to get me to sit down and shut up, as if that was going to help the situation. And Elaine totally flipped out and just started accusing me of being jealous of her, telling me that I was trying to ruin her wedding on purpose because my boyfriend wouldn't propose to me, so I was trying to steal her thunder, but I guess she oversold that whole act and got a little too defensive, so her fiancé ended up actually believing me, and then he walked off from the stage. When she realized that she had been left at the altar, she started running after him and the whole situation descended into pandemonium, but I couldn't care less about any of that. I just shook Nick off of me, made my way to the parking lot where I already packed my stuff and stashed my bags before the ceremony, and then I drove back home. 3 days have passed since then, and for the first 2 days, I didn't hear from anyone. But yesterday, Nick told me that he and Elaine had been wrong, but what I had done was just downright psychotic. Because apparently, I didn't just ruin the wedding, but I also destroyed her life. Now, her parents don't want anything to do with her, and her fiancé has already dumped her, so she's just broke and homeless because apparently, she had been counting on this wedding to help her out financially, if you catch my drift. For a less subtle explanation, let me just say that she's a total gold digger, and this wedding had been a total sham right from the beginning. She and her fiancé didn't meet through their parents earlier this year, like they had been telling everyone, but actually met each other on a dating app. Her fiancé is 6 whole years older than her and had an ultimatum from his parents, that he could either get married and settle down, or he could continue fooling around with a new woman every week, and that way, he could count on getting himself disinherited by his parents and everything would go to his brother instead. So for that reason, he was willing to find somebody, but in reality, he had no interest in getting married, and so far, he had been looking for somebody who would be okay with the idea of an open marriage, but had been unlucky. That was until he met Elaine on the dating app, and she figured out a way that this could work for both of them. She wasn't too keen on the idea of getting married either, but she had been unemployed for about a year and she had tried her hand at a bunch of stuff, but she just couldn't find anything to keep herself interested for more than 2 to 3 months. All she really wanted was to marry somebody rich and be done with it, and lucky for her, her fiancé's family was pretty rich. I guess you guys can understand where I'm going with this. After a couple of dates, they realized that this would be the best way to solve both their problems, and for a while, everything was sorted. But then, I made that speech, exposing her at the wedding, and of course, since their parents had no idea about their personal arrangement, her fiancé had to leave. Because there was no way that his parents were going to approve of him marrying a woman like that, especially after her friend had humiliated the entire family in front of so many people. So even if their arrangement had been convenient, it wasn't going to work anymore, and they had to call the whole thing off. She had been staying with her fiancé for the past couple of months and hadn't been doing anything productive, since she had even quit the last sales job that she had, and now, after the whole fiasco wedding, even her parents won't take her back in. So she has nowhere to go, and it's not like it's going to be easy for her to find a job either, because she's not really qualified, and even if she does find something, it's probably going to be something very low paying. So now I'm being accused of ruining her life by being insensitive, because Nick thinks I should have just confronted them in person instead of publicly humiliating the two of them and creating so much trouble for her. Even our friends don't want to speak to either of them anymore, and she's in big trouble right now, and for some reason, he expects me to feel bad about all this right now. Anyway, I don't really particularly feel bad for Elaine, and neither do I think that her life has been destroyed. All she has to do is just find a job and stick to it and do something for herself, instead of relying on other people. I don't think it's a bad thing. If anything, I've probably done her a favor, but whatever. What I don't feel kind of iffy is about humiliating both families publicly, because I'm sure that the kind of speech that I made did not reflect too well on either of them, and I've met Elaine's parents and they're really nice people. So that's the only part of whatever Nick told me that really stuck with me, and I feel kind of bad about that part. I feel like I could have just done away with the whole public humiliation thing and confronted them privately, broken up with Nick and let all of this go in a healthy way, but now, I've created all this drama and I feel weird about it. So Ida for publicly humiliating my best friend and her family at her wedding because she and my boyfriend had been hooking up with each other? Edit. I truly have no idea how long this has been going on. The only information I have is whatever I overheard when I was lurking outside the room where my friends were talking about this whole thing. They were mostly just making jokes and saying stupid stuff about the only thing of note that they said was that thing about the engagement party. I had left early because again, I had a migraine, and it's not surprising. It usually does happen if I spend too long in a really loud environment. It's just a thing that I have, and I've seen a lot of doctors about it, and I'm on meds for it, but I do need a lot of rest, so I do have to go home early quite often. And since a lot of our friends are usually there, I've never thought that it would be fair to ask Nick to come back home with me so he comes back later. Until recently, I never had a reason to be suspicious of how late he would come back home, but now, I'm beginning to think that this whole thing had probably been going on for a long time and I just had no idea. It's fine, though. It's over now and they can keep hooking up to their heart's content. Although I don't think that Nick is the kind of guy that Elaine would genuinely want to spend the rest of her life with, because for starters, he's not even as rich as she wants her men to be, and if they end up together, he's definitely going to expect her to work because he's not fine with being the primary breadwinner, since that's a lot of pressure for him. His words, not mine, and I used to think that it was quite an admirable quality. But I don't think Elaine will feel the same way, and then, I don't think Nick is going to be able to tolerate her because she's a much bigger drama queen than me. Anyway, that's their problem now. Update 1. Hi. It's been 2 days since I posted and I haven't replied to Nick's message about whatever happened with Elaine. I'm not sorry. I don't have to feel bad about anything because I was upset about something. I reacted in a harsh way and that's it. If that reflects badly on other people, that's hardly my problem. It must have hurt her parents, but honestly, I can't say that I'm too sorry about that, because even though they were good people, Elaine was obviously not a good person and she totally deserved what I did. And I'm not in the mood to apologize to anyone, not even her parents, so I'm staying out of it for now. I did text Nick back though, but that was only to tell him that he needs to come by soon and collect all his things so he can get the heck out of here. Obviously, now that we are no longer together, I don't want him staying in my house anymore, and I really couldn't stand the sight of all his things just lying about, so I gathered all of it, packed it into some boxes, and I have kept it aside. So when he does come by, he can just grab those boxes and get out and we don't end up wasting any time. He is the only person I haven't blocked yet because I need to know when he's going to come by. After that's done, I'm gonna block him as well. But the rest of my friends have already been blocked, and of course, Elaine was the first one that I blocked. Now that some time has passed since the incident, all the emotions have started to hit me and I've been feeling really upset about everything. I wasn't just betrayed by one person, I was betrayed by my boyfriend, my best friend, and all these people who I thought were my family, since that's just how close our group was. Naturally, I've been very emotional about that, but thankfully, my biological family has been by my side, and they have been very supportive. They've been dropping by for the past couple of days, to take care of me and more importantly, make sure that I'm taking care of myself. I'm really grateful for that because at least I have some people who are looking out for me. Update 2. Hi. So today, almost 9 days after the incident, Nick texted me in the morning and told me that he would be coming by in the evening to collect his things. I was fine with that, and since he hadn't made any attempts to contact me in the past 9 days, I had assumed that when he showed up, he would probably just take his things and leave. But instead, when he came by and I started handing over the boxes to him, he told me that he wanted to look through the house in case I had missed anything. I was a bit skeptical about that because for that, I would have to let him in and it sounded like it was going to be a tedious process, but then again, I couldn't refuse because I might have missed something and I wanted to finish this task in one go itself. So I allowed him to come in. He looked through the house and took a few more things that I had missed, and I thought that was going to be it, that he would just take those things, put them in the boxes, and leave. But instead, he started loitering in the living room, holding those things, and it was getting really awkward, so I had to ask him if he was going to leave or not. And then he told me that he really wanted to talk to me and he had hoped that this time around, I would be more open to addressing the problem, since quite some time had passed. It was quite infuriating because he was speaking to me as if several years had passed since the incident when in reality, it hadn't even been 2 weeks. Also, I don't feel like I had to address any problems with him. He cheated on me with my best friend who was about to get married, and that was it. They were the problems, not me. So I told him that I had been very clear with him when I had texted him, and I had told him that he was only welcome here as long as he needed to collect his things. Now that he had done that, there was no need for him to talk to me or stay around anymore. But he started arguing with me, telling me that even though he had cheated, it wasn't like I was completely perfect, and I needed to stop acting as if this was entirely his fault. Until then, I had been curt with him, but I had still been trying to keep my cool, even though I was getting more irritated with every passing second. Then finally, when he said that, I totally lost it at him, and I started screaming at him because I couldn't believe that he had the audacity to imply that any of this might have been my fault. I'm ready to acknowledge the fact that I'm not a perfect person, not by any means, but the way he said it, I knew he was implying that I had somehow driven him to cheat on me. And even before he started arguing back, I knew what he was going to say. Like I had mentioned in my original post, we had already been having some problems because I wanted to settle down. I wanted to get married and start a family soon, but he was not ready for that. I knew that he was going to bring that up because I had been thinking about it myself for a couple of days already, although in a different way, one where I was the victim. But in his opinion, he was the real victim and he was not ready to commit since it was a pretty big deal, and he thought that it was going to be a bad decision for him because he wanted to live his life a little before he got married and started a family. For the past 8 years, he has only ever been with me. We have only ever done things with each other in mind, and apparently, he felt like he doesn't even know who he is, which is somehow supposed to be my fault. I couldn't believe that he thought that these were valid points, because if he had really had such a huge problem with committing to me even after 8 years of being together, then clearly, we had very different opinions and we wanted very different things from life. So the only two ways to have dealt with that were to either keep talking about it and try to come to a common ground or just break up. But he chose to cheat on me, so he could have the best of both options, so he could do whatever he wanted to while keeping me around as backup. And somehow, I was a terrible person for not being okay with something like that. The whole victim playing thing and pretending as if we were both equally at fault here made me so mad that I ended up screaming myself hoarse at him, but even then, he just kept arguing and trying to defend himself, saying that he was under a lot of stress because of me and Elaine apparently just got him somehow in a way that I never did. I even kept asking him to leave, but he wouldn't go away, and he kept saying that I needed to understand that I was not a perfect person, and I had been just as toxic as he had. I would have called the cops on him, but unfortunately, I was so worked up that it didn't even occur to me. But anyway, after a while, I was so totally done with the conversation that I went to the door, opened it, and just stood beside it silently while he still kept trying to defend himself. It took him several minutes to get the hint, and it was really difficult for me not to say anything while he was coming up with nonsensical arguments to defend himself, but I just stayed silent and stood beside the open door, waiting for him to get out. Finally, he did go, but even then, he told me that I could pretend to be a saint all I wanted to, but deep down, both of us knew that it took 2 people to ruin this relationship. And I totally agree, it did take 2 people, it took him and Elaine. But I didn't say that, it would have just started up another whole thing, and I didn't have the time or energy for that. So he walked out, I shut the door and finally started trying to calm down because talking to him had really riled me up. Even when we were together, he did have a lot of difficulty in admitting when he was wrong, but back then, I used to find it kind of endearing. But today, it was just the worst thing ever, and I'm really happy that he left when he did, because otherwise, I think I might have thrown something at him. Anyway, that's done now, he's gone and I'm just really relieved. I've blocked him already, and now, I'm gonna spend more time focusing on myself because I think I really need it. I've already started going to the gym more often since it really helps me stay distracted, and I'm also journaling. It's going to be baby steps before I finally feel like I'm over everything, because after all, regardless of how it ended, it was still an 8-year relationship. So it's definitely going to leave a mark, whether I like it or not. All I can keep trying to do is make sure that this mark doesn't bother me too much, I guess. Update 3. Hi, so it's been 2 years since my last update. I have been thinking about posting here for quite some time, and I finally got around to logging in today, so here's an update on how everything is going. On the work front, everything is amazing, even better than before, and I'm very happy. I've also become kind of a fitness freak, and it feels good. I haven't had any contact with those people from college for the past 2 years, and I really don't care how any of them are doing. My family has been there for me every step of the way, taking care of me and making sure that I'm doing well, and that's all that I need. I have very few friends now, just a couple of folks from school and some coworkers, but at least they are good people who genuinely care about me. And for the past few weeks, I've also been seeing someone. Dating had been completely off the table for me in the past year or so because I was still dealing with the trauma of my last relationship. But then, one of my friends introduced me to his cousin at her birthday party, and he's really sweet, really kind, and I don't know why, I just felt really drawn to him right from the first time that we met. My friend set me up on a date with him, and we've been going out for a while. I told him everything about my last relationship and how long it went on, so I want to take it kind of slow with him before we get serious. And he totally understands that. He respects me and my opinions, and he's so sweet that he's even told me that he's ready to wait because I seem like the perfect girl for him. We're also on the same page about marriage and kids. He wants that just as much as I do, and I think I've finally found somebody who is right for me. At least I'm much happier than Nick and Elaine, who got married a couple of months after my last update, but they couldn't even make their marriage work for a year. They ended up getting divorced within a year, and I found out about it from one of my old acquaintances from college who's a bit of a gossip. I can't say that I feel bad for them at all, since that would be a total and blatant lie. But I do hope that this serves as a good lesson to them, and I don't end up screwing over other people in the future as they did to me. Although, they are pretty horrible, so they might. Anyway, that being said, I feel like I'm truly over whatever happened, and yeah, happy.
Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel for more of these kinds of videos.